Hello and welcome to Liberty Wolf, episode number 36. My name is Zach Strong, and this is my podcast. I'm going to jump right into it today. The title of this episode is I'll Stand By You If... If what? That's what we're going to get to. So, let me make my little statement here. I'll stand with any person of any nationality, creed, race, ideology, or persuasion on any point on which they are right. Okay? So if anyone, is correct about something, on that thing, I will stand by them and support them. They might be wrong on everything else, but if they're right on something, I can side with them on that thing. People always talk about reaching across the aisle. But do we truly believe that? Will we truly stand with someone on the other side, whatever that side is, if they're right on that one thing, whatever that thing is? Maybe some of us do, maybe some of us don't. But for me, that's what I like. I don't care if your name is Adolf Hitler, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Che Guevara, Cromwell, Caesar. I don't care if you're a pastor in a prestigious church or the bum on the street. Doesn't matter. If you say something that is truthful and correct and accurate, I'll support you, at least in that statement. If you do something that is just and true and right, I'll support you, at least in that action. Now, I might reject you outright in general, because you might be wrong on 98.7% of other things. So I might say it's not worth it to support this person, for example, for public office, because they're so wrong on so many things. But at least, even if they were wrong, and heaven forbid the people elected them, I would still at least support them on those individual aspects that they've got right. Okay? That's my philosophy. Now, all of that said, I support intolerance. Yeah, you heard me right. I support intolerance. I'm an intolerant person. I don't believe tolerating evil things is a good way to live. There are a lot of famous quotes I could pull out from some famous people, but I'm going to paraphrase them all in my own philosophy, in my own way. So, society is too tolerant. A lot of the things that we have, that we've accepted, are just outright evil. Because we're so tolerant, because we don't want to offend, because we're politically correct, we don't want to rock the boat. We have permitted, accepted, even embraced in a lot of cases, total perversion, evil, criminality, lies, deceptions. And again, we have this inward need to be accepted, I think, as people. We want people to like us. We don't want people to give us the evil eye, right? We don't want people to hate us, to say spiteful things about us, to whisper to us, or whisper to other people about us. We don't want that, right? Okay, that's normal. We don't want that. We want everyone to get along. I mean, the average person wants people to get along. There are some people who don't, but the average person wants peace, right? But we don't pursue a path that leads to peace because we accept things that don't lead to peace and happiness and righteousness and goodness. We tolerate them. And because we tolerate them, they take over. It's like you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. You let that camel put his nose in the tent. Soon he's going to put his head in, and then his neck in, and then his hump in, and then he's going to be in, he's going to kick you right out. Just because you were so tolerant. And then you pat yourself on the back thinking, I'm so tolerant, I'm benevolent, look at me, I'm high-minded. No, that's stupidity. It's not high-minded. That's not thinking forward to the future. That's not really truly caring about them or about you and your family, about your nation, your people, if you allow criminals to run rampant in your society, for example, then how dare you pat yourself on the back about how you are so good? Because what if that criminal does something to your daughter, to the neighbor's daughter? What if you permit a society of drunkenness? Well, then drunk drivers are going to kill innocent people. What if you permit drug use? Then these drug use are going to break into people's homes because they're so desperate to get high, and they're going to shoot them like George Floyd. He was a drug, just a big drug monger. He broke into people's houses, held a gun to a pregnant woman, stole her money in a violent assault for drug money. He died of an overdose of drugs. Okay, these are not heroes. These are not people we should tolerate. Now, people can change and repent and reform their lives. Absolutely. The word penitentiary, right? A penitentiary was a place to try to redeem yourself, to become penitent. So, yes, people can change. Absolutely. That's the great news. It's the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. People can change because of him. Okay? They can repent. They can be redeemed. But as a society, we cannot tolerate murderers. We cannot tolerate rapists. We cannot tolerate politicians who lie, people who perjure themselves under oath. We can't tolerate wrong thinking. Now, everyone is wrong sometimes about something, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about philosophies that are evil. The one that I harp on the most is communism. It is the most pervasive and powerful and wicked of all philosophies ever invented. It's satanic in the extreme. It is evil. It has murdered and enslaved and degraded, dehumanized more human beings than any other philosophy, period. Okay? And so we cannot tolerate a philosophy that says there is no God. There is no right and wrong. We're going to abolish the family. We're going to tear down and destroy your laws. We're going to rip apart your constitution and all your guarantees of your God-given natural rights. We're going to rip that all apart. We're going to set up a totalitarian state that's going to govern everything you do. You're going to own nothing, and you're going to be happy about it. We cannot tolerate an evil philosophy like that, conspiratorial philosophy that openly says, yeah, we began as part of an underground secret society. Go read the introductions to the Communist Manifesto sometimes. Engels admitted it. Yeah, we started as a secret society. And as I've traced in my books and my articles and in the podcast here, if you trace it back, it goes back to the League of the Just, the League of Outlaws, the Jacobins, and eventually to the Order of Illuminati. That's where the communists came from. It's Illuminism, satanic, occultism. Okay, and so we cannot tolerate as a society this band of robbers, this clique of international gangsters. We can't do it. We can't allow that. Okay, so we have laws on the books already that outlaw the Communist Party USA. We just haven't enforced them. We haven't had a president with the stones to do it. We need someone or someone's people in society to rise up and say, we will not tolerate any longer being forced. We will not tolerate people trampling our rights. We will not tolerate politicians who break their oaths when they say, I'm going to defend the Constitution. We cannot tolerate that any longer, these oath breakers. We can't tolerate criminals running through society because we don't want to be called a racist. We let Black Lives Matter burn down cities because we don't want to offend, be politically incorrect. We let Antifa shoot people in the streets or drive their cars into crowds of people in parades and in the convoy up in Canada. Because we don't want to be called homophobic. We don't say the LGBT movement was created by communists. Harry Hayes, Communist Party USA member, he founded the first, the Mattachine Society, and NAMBLA, pedophile organization, and then the Radical Fairies, literally that's the name. He started that whole movement. Okay, we don't want to admit that and say it's wrong. It's part of this whole philosophy that wants to abolish the family and take us over and enslave us in chains. We don't want to admit that because we don't want to be labeled. We don't want to be blacklisted. We don't want to be canceled. Okay, we don't want to say this is perversion, this is wrong, this is sin. We don't want to say, oh, the temple of Satan, what's it called? The Satanic Temple. We don't want to say this is a cancer, and it needs to be eradicated like a cancer. That doesn't mean go shoot these people, but it means we don't allow them a platform in our society. I mean, think of that. Think of this insane idea of tolerance that people have. That you're going to allow this person a platform to brainwash your children and induct them into a criminal cult, basically, in the case of communism, or into outright perversion, into things that are unnatural, the things that doctors have called mental disorders, like transgenderism. You're going to allow our schools to be, which are publicly funded, to be platforms for this garbage? That's not tolerance. That's stupidity. That's suicide. That's immorality. Okay? So yes, I am highly intolerant when it comes to things that are going to harm me and my family. You know, I stand for faith, families, and freedom. That's my little catchphrase I've come up with. Faith, families, freedom. Okay? Those three things are the great three pillars of our society. And when something attacks those pillars, that endangers the whole of society. That is a perilous situation when you have termites eating through the foundation. Because if the foundation's gone, the whole structure can collapse. Yes? So what do we do about it? Well, that's perhaps a little harder. Ultimately, it comes down to personal purity. I haven't always been the most upright person, but I've tried. And so we need to try. We need to tell God, hey, we're going to try here. We're not going to allow, or we're not going to at least accept, tolerate all these evil perversions. We're going to do our best to get rid of the baby slaughter called abortion. We're going to do our best to end, get government totally out of the marriage business, but at least to not publicly recognize homosexual marriage, for example. That doesn't mean they're second-class citizens. It just means we as a society say this is unnatural and this leads to the dissolution of families, which is a fact. It's been a factor in the fall of the Roman Empire and other groups in the past. Fact, historical fact. So we're saying as a society, we don't like this. We don't want our society to collapse. We don't want a criminal cult called communism and all its various front movements, the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, LGBT movement, all the rest of them. The eco-insanity out there called the Green Movement, which is actually founded on Lenin's birthday. Coincidence, I'm sure. We don't want that because we actually love ourselves enough to have the self-dignity and respect to want to continue to exist, to want our freedom. Imagine that, a people who wants freedom. We say we're the land of the free, home of the brave. But how brave are we? Are we brave enough to say, yeah, I do not tolerate this trash? Are we brave enough to say that? Are we free enough to be able to say it? Sometimes not on Facebook. I've had one of my podcast episodes here on YouTube deleted when I spoke out about Antifa. That episode was banned. It's gone. Go look. You'll find, I don't remember which number it is, but it's the numbers are going and suddenly it just skips a number because YouTube decided we don't want this guy telling everyone that Antifa is a terrorist organization created by the communists. Okay, so you can't really speak truth in a lot of places in our society. Yet truth is what really this is all about. When I say who will I stand with, I'm going to stand with whoever has truth. Now, again, I might not accept this person as a whole. I might not accept an organization as a whole, but if they say something right, I'm going to say, yeah, on that thing, they're right. I can stand with them on this point. One of my favorite ever sayings is that even a broken clock is right twice a day. Think of that. Your clock is dead. It's not working. His hands are stuck. Well, at least 2 times during that day, it's still going to be right. So even the craziest, worst person is still right on some things sometimes. So have the integrity to stand with that because it's true, right? You have to stand with truth even if no one else does, or even if the worst people in society do. Even if the biggest lowlife says something that's true, you're duty bound, if you're intellectually honest, if you're an upright person, to say, yeah, he's right on that one. Now he needs to change, or we can't let him come into office, or we shouldn't believe the other things he's saying, but he is at least right on this one. He's got this one, guys. He's right. Okay? So I'm going to pull up a little quote here from a guy named Brigham Young, a great leader, a great Christian, so hated and reviled and inaccurately spurned and lied about constantly, okay? But he was a good man, very sincere man. You can't doubt his passion and sincerity for truth. And he always talked about truth, and he said very similar things almost every time. And so I want to read a little quote from him from many, many eons ago. He said this: "I want to say to my friends that we believe in all good. If you can find a truth in heaven, earth, or hell, it belongs to our doctrine. We believe it. It is ours. We claim it." So that's my doctrine as well. If something's true, no matter what it is, no matter how many of my prejudices or preconceived notions it abolishes or is contrary to, I am duty bound to believe it according to my religious view, according to my personal philosophy, according to what I believe in my heart, what sits right with me in my soul. That we need to stand up for truth, always. This is why I believe so many different things than the average person about World War II, for example, about the droppings of the atomic bombs, about so many different things in history, in politics, in religion, because they're true. Now, I've had to change over the years and admit that things that I once believed and advocated and publicly said online, for example, were false because I came into greater truth. And I've been very, very forthright. I get accused sometimes of dogmatically sticking with an opinion. That's so false. There are not that many people probably who as readily accept something as true as I do and admit that I was wrong and then completely do an about face. I do that all the time with things. Well, not as much anymore because I think as I get older, I find more and more truth. So there are fewer and fewer things I think that I'm now wrong on. But again, as I said earlier, everyone's wrong sometimes about something, even if it's little snap judgments here or there, or an individual issue. There are some thorny problems out there that I might not have all the facts on, but there are some things I do have facts on. I know God exists, for example. No one else can tell me otherwise. I will be tortured before I deny it, because I never will, because God exists, and I know that through His Spirit, and I know Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I know that. I know that the family unit is ordained of God. I know that the family unit, when sealed together by God's priesthood authority, can be perpetuated into the eternities after death. That's in the Bible, actually, even though Christians like to deny that. And so there are so many things I believe that are contrary to what the accepted view is. But I want to read one final quotation because, again, like I said, what I'm talking about here is really about truth. Actually, I lied. I said one final quotation. I actually have 2 more. So this one, the first one, comes from a man named Spencer W. Kimball. He was the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which was the same organization Brigham Young that I just quoted was head of, the second head of. Okay, in 1977, Spencer W. Kimball gave a great address about truth. And he could be a little bit fiery, and so he was very blunt in the way he said things because he was so emphatic that if this is true, we stand by it. So he said this: "There are absolute truths and relative truths. The rules of dietetics have changed many times in my lifetime. Many scientific findings have changed from year to year. The scientists taught for decades that the world was once a nebulous molten mass cast off from the sun, and later many scientists said it once was a whirl of dust which solidified. There are many ideas advanced to the world that have been changed to meet the needs of the truth as it has been discovered. There are relative truths, and there are also absolute truths, which are the same yesterday, today, and forever, never changing. These absolute truths are not altered by the opinions of men. As science has expanded our understanding of the physical world, certain accepted ideas of science have had to be abandoned in the interest of truth. Some of these seeming truths were stoutly maintained for centuries. The sincere searching of science often rests only on the threshold of truth, whereas revealed facts give us certain absolute truths as a beginning point, so we may come to understand the nature of man and the purpose of his life. The earth is spherical. If all the 4 billion people, now over 7, in the world think it flat, they are in error. That is an absolute truth, and all the arguing of the world will not change it. Weights will not suspend themselves in the air, but when released, will fall earthward. The law of gravity is an absolute truth. It never varies. Greater laws can overcome lesser ones, but that does not change their undeniable truth. If men are really humble, they will realize that they discover, but do not create truth. If I can only make clear this one thing, it will give us a basis on which to build. Man cannot discover God or his ways but by mere mental processes. One must be governed by the laws which control the realm into which he is delving. I repeat, these are not matters of opinion. They are absolute truths. These truths are available to every soul. Close quote. That was from Spencer W. Kimball at Brigham Young University. It was an address there on September 6, 1977, called Absolute Truth. Go read it. You might be interested. Now, because truth is so little known and so universally despised and so hated by the controllers of society, people who share the truth are also despised, hated, shunned, shunted to the side, kicked away, canceled, etc. Which side are you going to stand on? Are you afraid to be canceled? Why would you be afraid to be canceled by a perverse, sick society? Why do you want their approval? What can they offer you? All they can offer you is a very tawdry, cheap, very temporary pat on the back. It's not an eternal reward. They can't give you anything worthwhile. So you might have to undergo a little bit of persecution, just a little bit. But again, all things that are worthwhile take a little effort. They might run you up against the rest of society. You might have to go against the grain to stand for what's right, to be good. So there's another thing I want to read here. This is from my favorite hero, Thomas Jefferson, to James Ogilvy, August 4th, 1811. He said this, and I actually created a Facebook page called Reformers of Error, so facebook.com/Reformers of Error, based on this quote. He said this, quote, "Politics, like religion, hold up the torches of martyrdom to the reformers of error." Ooh, that's good. That's powerful. I like that a lot. Anyone who reforms others' errors, watch out. They're gonna put you to the fire if they can. Okay, society wants to make us choose. Do you stand with us, or are you with the terrorists? Isn't that what W said? Skull and Bonesman, George W. Bush. Yeah, that's what he said, and that's kind of how society believes it. You're either with me or with them. Now, in a way, that's true. You're either with the right or you're with the wrong. You're either on the side of truth or you're on the side of error. You're on the side of light or the side of darkness, the side of God or the side of Satan. I didn't say it. Jesus said it. Blame him if you don't like that doctrine. If that offends you, maybe you should correct yourself, because God has said it, his prophets have said it, it's common sense. Okay? So you do have to choose a side, but at the same time, just because someone is wrong about one thing doesn't mean they're the devil. Okay? They could still be right about a whole lot of other things. So whatever they are right about, we are duty bound to accept. At least I am, because that's what I've set for myself, my personal philosophy, that I'm going to stand by truth no matter what. Now, I have a little quote from the book of Micah in the Bible. Micah chapter 1, verse 8. simply says this: What doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God? We need to do justly, be merciful to other people. For example, forgive them of their errors when they repent of them. Forgive them always, of course, but be willing to accept them back into your confidence in society and all of those other things. Let them be a part of you. Let them participate with you in things, in politics or whatever, when they say, I was wrong, and when they conform themselves to truth. Because all of us are in error at times. We've all fallen short. But we can all rise again through Jesus Christ. And so if we do these things, and we try to be humble about it, we try to accept truth wherever it is, no matter who said it, if I can ever find something that Joseph Stalin said that was right, I'll accept it. Okay? Because a broken clock is even right twice a day. Okay? So, stand with truth. It's the right thing to do. And this is the truth. So I'll stand with you if you stand on the truth. Sic semper tyrannis. Long live liberty and truth.